Meeting of the Hull Town Select Board to order at 7:07. Please stand and join me in the pledge to the flag. Thank you. Before we get started, I'd like to give a big shout out to town staff, DPW, the light plant staff, the police department, the fire department, and the town manager and town manager's office for getting us through the storm unscathed, for developing an emergency response plan before the storm hit. And I hope and I assume that everybody in town appreciates the response and the work that was done, especially by the DPW and the light plant to keep the electricity on. There are other towns on the South Shore. I know Marshfield and Plymouth still don't have power. Other towns like Situate just got it back yesterday, so we were very lucky that we were only out for a few hours. And that is definitely due to the planning that went in advance and the work during and after the storm. So thank you to everybody in town that was involved and played a part in that. First on the agenda is the meeting minutes of January 21st. If folks have had a chance to review them, I'll entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Gray, seconded by McCarthy. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you. Next on the agenda is Brian LaRoche, who will present preliminary plans for the relocation of the Hull Town Hall to the Memorial Middle School. Mr. LaRoche and his team are the OPMs that have been working on this. So I'll turn it over to you and to town manager.
Do you want to get started?
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't, that was the introduction.
Yeah.
And as everyone knows, Town Hall will be relocating to the Memorial Middle School. We've been working on the project for a few months now. And I'll just turn it over so
Yeah.
we can get right into it.
So I have with me here Casey Hochheimer is also assisting me on the project, and Jeremy Tobin, who is with BH+A, the architecture firm. So Jeremy will be giving you a presentation on the plans a little later after I get through some of the overview of the project for you. Do you want just to advance the slides? So project schedule, just an overview of where we are in the process right now. So in the summer months is when we were retained as OPM, and then we went out for an RFS to find an architect right at the end of July, and then had BH+A awarded in September. And then right after that began to kick off the project. And so it began with evaluating the existing building here just to see what it is that how you're operating, what you have for needs here in the building itself. And so the better part of October into November was doing that. And then we shifted into evaluating what the future needs are of each of the departments and how we might be able to organize them in the new building a little bit more efficiently, provide for some growth, and then also lay out the plan for future storage needs, which are very much needed. Meeting spaces, trying to expand on that as well. But also as we were laying out the departments into the new footprint of the building, not trying to just lay out, a department per room, but be efficient with the use of the spaces to make sure we were right-sizing each of the departments into the building so that we could reserve some future space that could be used, from what I understand, as a community center senior capacity. So I think we've been very successful in getting that achieved, and Jeremy will present that to you in just a moment. So we're right now, as of yesterday, submitted to the estimators the schematic design set of drawings which they're estimating for us. And really, this is the tool we're going to need to be able to use to right-size the project for you, because we have a limited budget. And so what we've done is we've done the preliminary conceptual design and the programming. Now we have to see where the architecture, construction of all the interior walls and reconfiguration, what that cost is. And then we can kind of work ourselves backwards into some other things that we would like to do with this project, and I'll show you what those are in just a moment. So that's where we're at right now. We'll have the estimate back in 3 weeks, and then we'll go through a scope planning where we really figure out what it is we're going to be doing, and then lock that scope in, and then the construction drawings and bid documents will be prepared. So the schedule right now is still somewhat preliminary because we're still trying to work through the scope to tailor it to budget. So we will refine this schedule as we move forward. I believe this is the worst case scenario. So that's where I'm at right now, but I'll tell you a little bit about the budget. So we have laid out a preliminary budget for the project. Really, in this case, your budget begins at the bottom, which is the appropriation, which was $3.5 million, but I know there's money reserves for addressing the boilers at the here at the existing building because the police have to remain here. So we were told that we're working with $3.2 million, so we built the budget up from there. And so we know we have our architect on board, we know what the fees are, so we could plug those in. We're on board, so we have our fees, and then we know some other project costs that we'll have to incur, which leaves roughly about $1.5 million for the project itself, for the hard cost construction. Again, this is very preliminary. These numbers are subject to change and will most likely change once we get the estimate back. And some of the things that we're trying to determine, big picture on scope, is like how much flooring replacement do we do? Are we able to air condition, all of the departmental areas or not? The building right now doesn't have air conditioning but for a few spaces. So we're working on different options. We've asked the estimators to give us various pricing scenarios so that we can use that to figure out how to get to budget. So more will come on the budget. And then just to talk a little bit about the building itself, and obviously it's a school now and we want to make it look municipal. And so this particular stretch of corridor on the first floor as you enter the main door to the right is not bad. It actually does sort of strike the right level of finish that I would expect for something civic. But then as you move through the rest of the building, you start to see a lot more of the lockers. And so we would love to do to take those lockers out and infill and make some maybe art spaces or bulletin boards for notices and so forth. But again, it all comes down to budget. The primary objective is to create the spaces and to get the walls built and get the departments in, and then we sort of work backwards of what our priorities are after that. And then I'll give you another, for example, the team, this particular space, which you'll see when Jeremy presents, is going to be a large conference room. And so in this particular instance, we have some built-in casework. It was a science lab, it's built into the floor in the middle. So we would remove that, but then we would keep all the perimeter. We're trying to be as mindful with the budget as we can and to try and not spend where we don't have to. Put the effort where it really will make a difference. So if this is going to be a meeting space, we already have the whiteboard, we have the flanking pinup boards. It actually works pretty well for a meeting room. So in this particular room, there's not a whole lot that we need to do. We can keep all the lighting and ceiling and everything as it is. There are some spaces in the building that a little bit more worn than others, and so obviously one of the things we'd like to do is to address some of those. I've highlighted one particular thing, some flooring in areas that might have gotten wet or heavily traveled and are starting to delaminate, and it would be nice if we could in the project to upgrade some of those flooring finishes at various points. So that's an instance. There's other areas in the building where we'd like to replace some ceiling tiles that have been water damaged. So those are things that the team is looking at. And then we do have areas that are carpeted. And we actually would like to, in the municipal offices, continue this carpeting because it works really well for acoustics. But again, it comes down to a budget constraint. Most of the classrooms are the VCT, like this picture that I had here before. But there are some areas like the next, which is this is a large meeting room on the left, and then the library in the top right. So those are other things that will impact the budget. And first of all, we have to start with getting the department spaces built. Then we move into some specific areas, and I apologize. The picture I took, they were in the middle of cataloging the vault, so there's a lot of items that have been pulled off the shelves and are in crates. But it's a large space. It doesn't have a lot of structured shelving, so it's really stacked boxes and so forth. So we're looking in the lower right-hand corner at a vault that has a high-density rolling file storage, so that we can accommodate the same amount of storage in 20% for growth, but do it in a much more efficient way. So in order to meet state record retention laws, we have to have a 6-hour vault, and that vault has to be survivable in a fire condition. So it has to be structurally independent of the building and be able to withstand a full building collapse. If we were to build a cast-in-place vault like the picture in the lower right-hand corner, it's about $350,000 to $400,000. On a budget of $1.5 million, it doesn't leave a whole lot. So the design team has come up with a prefabricated option that we're looking into, which we think can save about half of the cost. So we're working very hard to try and find solutions to get everything down to a smaller, more efficient, which translates into better use of the budget. So this is some of the things that are going on in the background. And then, of course, Jeremy will show you the need for storage in the building is extraordinary. Throughout this building, there's storage everywhere. And so one of the things that we've been able to accomplish with the reconfiguration of the new town hall is identifying a centralized storage area that's sizable, so we can get all of these excess records that are stored in the departments now into a centralized area to be more efficient with how the spaces are laid out. So we are working on that in the design, and Jeremy will talk about that when he presents it to you. And then another thing that we would very much like to do as part of the project is we would like to be able to bring all of the public in through the front door. But in order to do that, we have to have the front door handicap accessible. Right now, the existing school, the lower level, if you can see in this color picture on the lower right-hand corner, there's an at-grade entrance that slopes slightly downward that gets you to the lower level. That lower level is shared with the school program that's down there, and that space does have students that move between their program areas or educational areas to the gymnasium, and at lunchtime use that as well. So it's not a good idea for us to mix the public with the educational function. So we'd very much like to bring the public through the front door. But putting another elevator in is cost prohibitive. That itself could be nearly $1 million if we had to do that to create a separate new elevator. So we looked at 3 different options for doing a landscape handicap ramp. There's a natural about 4 feet high of grass. We would use landscape pathways to get you to that level, and then behind landscaping, we would do more structured cast-in-place concrete to get us up to that main level of the stair. So this is being priced right now, so we can see where this concept comes in, and ideally, we would like to incorporate this into the budget. So I'm going to begin to turn this over to Jeremy, but I'll just say, our team at BH+A has done a very nice job figuring out the fit and stacking within the building. I think we have arrived at a really nice plan with the help of town manager and assistant town manager and all of the department feedback. We initially sat down with the departments to go over their existing, went, drew, figured, came back with some ideas, met with them, got some feedback, and the plans have been updated. So it's been a very collaborative process up to this point, and so I'm pretty happy with what we've got. Just in the interest of time, I'm not going to go through every department with you, but we have what I have on the screen here. On the left is the existing survey, and then on the right is the proposed plan for each of the departments. So we have this type of level of information for each of them. And again, just in the interest of time, we're not going to go through each one of those. I put up on the screen town clerk just as an example of the work that's been done. And so with that, I will show one more slide and then have Jeremy speak. Here's an example of just a few weeks ago of some of the feedback that we're getting from the team about some tweaks and how we can make some of these layouts work even more efficiently. So there's still a lot of work going on right now to get these departments to work well. I know Peter was in here earlier. We were talking about how his space was laying out, and we've already made some edits from the last plan he saw. So we're working very hard to find the right solutions for all the departments. So with that, I will turn it over to Jeremy Tobin from BH+A to present.
You can go to this TV. I think it's easier if I can just kind of point to what I'm talking to. If that,
The microphone, is that okay for
It's,
him to
yep,
present like that?
yeah, absolutely.
that microphone is good.
No, he'll pick up my.
Yeah, I
mine.
should,
Up this one here.
Just be loud.
My best. So Brian, can you go to the next? Yeah. So this is the ground floor. It's ground floor, first floor, second floor. There's 3 floors, but the name is a little, can be a little confusing. So the front of the building is on this side. This is that entryway that Brian just mentioned down in the front. So this is the cafeteria vestibule area now that's used by the school. So just to orient everybody, there's an elevator here in the center. We have stairs here, here, there. Anything in this grayish color stuff that we're not touching is just going to be left as is. Anything in this blue color is what's being used by the school currently. So again, we're not going to touch anything there. So not much to do on the ground floor, except this area will become kind of a common space, entry vestibule. So if someone needs to come in a wheelchair, they can come in the first floor, the ground floor, go to the elevator here and go up to the first or second. Or they can go to the stairs. The vault is going to be in this area, so this whole corner will be taken over for clerks and general storage. You enter that through here. There's kind of an ante-room, storage, and the vault will be there. As Brian mentioned, it's got to be a 6-hour vault, so it has to be on the bottom floor, or if we put it up on the first or second floor, we need to build a 6-hour structure underneath that, and that can be very hard to do and costly. So it'll be on the first floor. And go to the next. So this is what's called the first floor. It's the middle floor. The auditorium, again, we're not really going to do anything in there. That'll be a public shared space. These areas are ones that are going to be left aside for possibly a future senior center or something else. So we're not really touching this area. If you come up through the elevator, you'll end up here. We have these new walls and doors that are going to allow you to lock off parts of the building if there's different events here. So if this becomes a senior center, you can kind of come in. And if you're going to the town hall, there'll be signage, but we also won't have people for the town hall area wandering into the senior center area and vice versa. This is the main entrance, so if you don't need to use the elevator on the ground floor, you can just come up here, enter here. The rest of the departments are all in this half of the building. Anything you see here that's in the bluish color, that'll be meeting rooms. So this is one of the science rooms that's going to be turned into a large meeting room that Brian was mentioning earlier. This is the same on the first and the second floor. Another smaller meeting room here. One of the things we noticed when we talked to all the departments is that they didn't have enough meeting space. There's one small meeting room, so we're going to have smaller ones, or ones of various sizes scattered throughout the building for their use or for conferences, whatnot, kind of general building use. So while we were talking to everybody, we determined what different departments wanted to be closer to each other, ones that work together closely. You can't see it on this drawing, but here we have some of the more, I guess we had call it financial block. I guess that was just the way that I put things together. Tax collector, treasurer, the accountant, those are all in a similar area. Veterans Affairs, yes. And retirement, veterans is up here. This this green area is the clerk's office. So clerk will have their own office, their own storage, and kind of a bullpen area for various desks. Up front, right next to the entryway, we have the nurse's office and veterans, and those are there because those two departments also work pretty closely with senior centers. We wanted to have those close to one another, so since they'll be working hand in hand. And then this back corner where we have the meeting rooms, there's also 2 rooms that are going to be used. We're calling them out as storage. They can be storage, they can be flex space for growth in the future. But for now, that's what we're going to call those.
Yeah, so I think the idea was that right now, there's a lot of papers that are being stored, but in the future, they'll be digitized, and so as the town grows, these spaces that are used today as storage in the future would be expansion spaces within the department. So there was, the planning is all designed for sort of the future 50 years growth of the town so that we could, the town would be able to grow into this space. So there are some pockets of spaces that, we do anticipate in the future being used.
That brings up another point. Within the departments, every department has their own storage of file cabinets, and you saw some of the pictures Brian had up earlier. There's kind of stuff everywhere. So to avoid that, where we could, we took a portion of one of, this was an old meeting room. We took a portion of that meeting room as kind of an out-of-the-way storage area. So in one corner, one side, we have an area where all the file cabinets, whatever kind of storage they have, are going to go. We'll have a lower wall, 4.5 feet, to hide as much as possible anything that's beyond there. So the main office space will look a little neater. All the storage will be consolidated, and then, as Brian mentioned, in the future, when everything is digitized, this space can be used for future expansion space should the departments grow or just need to reorganize or what have you. So that we did that in most, I think, of the offices. It's mostly affects the building department, which we can see on the second floor. So I think we can just move up there. Again, this is the front of the building. This is the town manager's suite. So Jen and Stacy will have their own offices, an area for their assistant. They'll have their own small meeting room when they need to break out and have larger meetings. This is right next to the new select board room, your new room, which will be much larger. You can see, I think we've more than doubled the amount of seats for the public and given you a wider desk. And then, if need be, you can also use this town manager's meeting space as a kind of a breakout room, but they're all interconnected by doors. And then so this block is kind of the building department block. Again, that's what we were calling it in-house. Building department, Board of Health, Conservation, and Planning. They all work closely together, hand in hand. They all want to be close to each other. Again, meeting rooms, a couple smaller storage rooms throughout. I didn't point out on the downstairs, but existing bathrooms pretty much going to stay as they are, where they are. There's scattered around the building, so there's plenty for everybody that's going to be here. A couple more meeting rooms, and then these 2 offices here and here. Those are called out as flex space. So department needs them in the future, or if there's people. I think the animal control officer doesn't need a desk all the time, but when he does, he'll be here or there.
Auditors.
Others. And if keeping those somewhat close to the town manager's suite, so whoever's going to be in there can work closely with them. And then up in here we have Hall TV, the IT department, and this large room will be just general storage. As we went through the different departments, there's a lot of files that didn't need to be in the offices but did need to be kept. And a lot of people agree that those things can go to a locked room. It's kind of archive storage, so if they eventually do need to get there, they'll still be available. I think I covered everything. was a little quick, so if there's any questions, let me know, or we can
Questions?
move on.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's,
That's really
That's it, okay.
the last slide.
So I guess just to summarize, that's the project as it stands. We talked about the budget, the process, how we got to this point. So all the staff were involved to design out their spaces. There was the needs assessment that was done initially. And then we were able to find that there's ample space in the building for additional municipal services. And I know at the time when the schools consolidated, one of the main discussion points was the senior center. We arranged the space also so that it would complement the senior center if in fact the senior center moves over to the middle school. And just for some comparison, I believe it was the Cohasset.
Yeah, Jeremy, I think you guys had some
Senior
numbers
center.
about like area that we were reserving for
Size.
senior function, right?
Yeah. We came up with that a little while ago.
And I'm also working on a project for Middleton too, and we sort of compared what we were reserving for space in a similar sized town, so we felt like we got the right block.
questions,
Questions?
comments? Jerry?
So, the number one question typically is, 3.2 million is the budget, is that, I'm assuming is approved funds, right?
We approved that.
Yeah, so the way these projects go, having been involved in many of them, is the budget usually is, you know, it changes, there's change orders, things change, there's, you know, additional costs for a number of reasons. I'm just curious how that's handled, obviously, I mean, that's, I think it's kind of a given that that would probably happen, unless you guys have a method of, you know, confirming and verifying that it basically can't go up.
Well, that's, that's the mantra that we have, is that it's 3.2 and we have to work in, sorry. We have to work within that. So, we have a contingency built in for soft costs and hard costs within the numbers. And our goal with the design team is to make sure that we get the scope right. And making sure that we flushed everything out and make, you know, so that we're moving forward with a realistic scope that meets what we're trying to do here. So what we're doing right now, waiting, you know, essentially we have to wait for the estimators to get back to us, to give us what we need to be able to figure out what our path forward is to make sure that we get it right so we stay within that 3.2.
Gotcha, so you're gonna maybe mold the design somewhat to keep it within that number. I
It's
guess.
really scope. It's like, we want to do air conditioning of all the spaces. Can we do that within our budget? We want to be able to put the ramp in the front, but can we do that with our budget?
Gotcha.
So we're not going to plow forward and put all this into the bid documents and then get out to bid and find that, you know, what we're asking for is double what we have available. So we want to
Some
make
of
sure
them-
that
Unless it
we're-
makes sense, and the town manager might say, maybe we should discuss going back to town meeting for additional funds for A, B, and C.
Well,
small
some of the
amount.
flexibility that we have is with the accessible ramp, for example, in the front of the building, there is a grant that's available. And so the hope is, or the intent is to go for that ADA grant funding to cover that cost.
It's a $200,000 that the state has available, up to $200,000.
It's a great idea.
When we get the estimate, we can use that plus the conceptual design that we showed you in the grant application. So that shows that we've really, you know, a lot of times you're successful in that when you have the estimate and you have a design. And so, like, yeah, I agree with Jen. I mean, that's one way to look, you know, to solve that particular problem. There might be some other grants available that might help us do air conditioning. So we might have to look at other resources and see what's out there.
The type of air conditioning that we go forward with leaves us some room for flexibility also. I mean, there's the ideal,
Is there no air conditioning at all in the building
The
currently?
library has air conditioning and the first floor administrative office areas do.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
That's a massive cost, air conditioning, just that alone.
Yeah.
It's a big
So
one.
we've, you know, I think we have 3 options that we've asked the estimators to look at. I mean, window air conditioners, 1. 2 is window air conditioners on the sort of courtyard side. It's a U-shaped building, so everything that faces inward but maybe we do rooftop units for the outward-facing offices. And then the fourth option is, the whole, do the whole building with heat pumps, so it's a new system. I don't think that's in the cards, but we'll get a number for it, and then, we'll come back, with options. And then you can tell us what's important and tell us what your priorities are. And then we'll set this, the scope that we move forward with based on your input.
Just as far as the cost estimate goes, we have about 3 phases of design, and we get a new estimate with each phase. So we just completed the first, we'll get the first estimate, and we'll update that as we go, just to make sure that we're still in the right budget.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but at the end of the process, this project still has to go out to bid, right?
Correct. Yes, so we'll have 3 cost estimates before it goes.
So it could go either way at that point, or you might get close to the number. I know you put a target number on there, but sometimes they come in a little less, sometimes they come in a little more, right?
Sure, I mean, you never know where the bid environment is right now. We're opening bids that are well below estimated values. So right now, it's a very favorable environment, but it could change. So, yeah, I mean, but as Jeremy said, it's important for us at the end of the design development, do another estimate and make sure that we're on budget and we haven't deviated. And then we'll do it one more time at 60% construction documents. So we're using the professionals to help make sure that we are tailoring the scope correctly and documenting it in a way that we're staying within budget. That's really important.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's gonna be about a year until construction starts, so you have that, the time lapse as well, which would affect pricing, right?
It could, yes. Luckily, the bidding environment doesn't change that fast, but it, so far so good. We've seen, with impacts with tariffs, have not really had an impact on public construction. The numbers haven't really been affected negatively. There's actually not a lot of competition out there, not a lot of projects. So there's a lot of the other way around. Not a lot of work, a lot of competition. So the last bid opening we had, we're seeing trades like plumbing, electrical, coming into the mix who only do private work. So on the private side, there's not much going on. Last check, Boston, like new starts for building construction are way down. And that helps us because we're still in the greater Boston area.
Yep.
Sorry,
Thank you.
taking my breath away.
I appreciate the work that you've done here, and for preliminary plans, this looks great, taking into account all of the needs of the departments and the town, and I like that there's sufficient meeting room space left over, and I do want to say that you've been talking about the senior center. That's a possibility. No decisions have been made and no plans have been made for that, but what you're basically saying is that space is being reserved for that possibility that we can hopefully move forward on.
That's
But what we're focused on here now is specifically town hall and the town departments.
That is correct.
Great, thank you. Any other comments, thoughts, questions? Great, well, thank you for the presentation, and we look
Thanks for
forward to you
having us.
coming back with, and working with you. Much
Look forward
appreciated.
to coming back with updated drawings.
Look forward to coming in under cost.
You're not doing any key card systems or anything like that? I was hoping the select board could get special keys to use that basketball space after hours.
There's an existing fob system that we would be using, so we're not planning on any modifications to the security system at this time.
Thank you all.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Pacemaker?
Challenge last week.
Next on the agenda is Town Manager Constable presenting a FY '27 budget.
All right. So
Also, I'd
So,
like to introduce, I'm sorry, Mike Buckley, Town Treasurer.
accountant, town accountant.
Count.
All right. So this is just what I'll go over through the presentation, revisit the fiscal calendar, because I think that's an important piece for everyone to be aware of, piece of information, so it can't be restated enough. Talk a little bit again about some current fiscal year updates and highlights. We'll talk a bit about revenues and expenditures. We'll go through the budget worksheet, which is a lot of the departmental budgets. Give an update on our financial reserves and a number of new accounts that were established in previous town meetings. And then talk a little bit about capital and operational highlights and the next steps. So just to review what a fiscal calendar year looks like, it begins July 1, runs through June 30th. In November, the tax rate classification hearing is held, and there's a request for departmental budgets and capital requests. December, we begin building the budget, we meet with budget and capital. We meet with departments to discuss their budget and capital requests, and that's an initial meeting. We begin working on the capital improvement planning. January, February, the board hears the proposed budget. We await the governor's budget, which was released just a couple of weeks ago, so I think in February of this year. February, March, advisory board and departmental budget meetings continue. The departmental budgets meetings conclude. We refine the revenue and expenditure estimates. And then final presentation to the select board. The warrant gets voted on, which includes the budget. And then at May is when the budget is presented and hopefully adopted by town meeting. And then in June, we close the books for the prior fiscal year. Just a few highlights to update from FY26, which is, again, our current fiscal year. So on the fiscal policy side of things, we've initiated the capital improvement planning and capital improvement fund has been established, I believe, last year's town meeting, maybe 2 town meetings ago. We established an injured on duty unemployment workers' compensation fund and an employment liability fund and accounts, which I'll go over the balances in those in a little bit. We established a grant match fund. And then we're just advancing and growing our coordinated planning. The board adopted the integrated goals and objectives. Again, those were priorities set by the select board that integrated those operational strategies, which is the work, the ongoing work and input from staff to create the overall document, which is really one of our current guiding roadmaps for setting priorities and making any fiscal decisions. And then, as everyone's aware, the planning board is carrying out the master plan process. That's really a higher sort of 30,000-foot overview or a planning document, which provides a roadmap for the next 10 years for the town in a variety of different areas. On the capital side, we are rolling out our online permitting. The sewer department has taken on an asset management software, which has been very helpful for them. We've implemented a C-Click Fix, which is residential and business or visitor even front-facing software where issues or questions could be submitted online and responded to. They're directed to the appropriate departments to be addressed. We are currently working on the website upgrade and redesign, which will be rolling out in March. There's a lot of excitement, I know, internally for that project. On the public safety side, we continue to rotate and bring in new police vehicles. We brought in a rescue ambulance and ordered an engine for the fire department. On infrastructure, we're about to begin, or may have actually, well, might be sidetracked because of the weather, begin the pump station rehabilitation at Draper Avenue. We have heard the presentations on Manamet and Samoset Avenue design or redesign. Townwide line painting and seawall investment continues. And then on a little bit of a more fun note, we were able to provide some funding for the 250th celebration, which will get underway this year. I believe it kicks off with the Snow Row, March 7th. And then operationally, we have implemented in this year union and non-union salary adjustments. We had some staff increases, which have been instrumental to the departments, including 2 full-time firefighters, a full-time employee at the police department, and additional library staff. This is sort of an overview of our revenue and expenditures. So each year, we have a number of budget variables, and those are primarily state aid. So Chapter 70 is our educational funds, Chapter 90 is our roads and our roadway funding, and UGA, unrestricted government aid. We just have to wait, and unfortunately, we don't know when we're in the middle of when wrapping up our budget process, what those final numbers will look like year over year. And local receipts are also a variable. Fortunately, our local receipts have remained steady, and that is a positive sign. On the revenue side and expenditures, we are presenting a balanced budget, and the revenues have increased 3.4, a little over 3%, and the expenditures match that.
Sorry, John.
That's okay. Specifically, our revenues, our main revenue source is tax levy. I believe it's about 75% of the overall revenues, and then, which has increased 2.99% this year. Our state aid, based on the governor's budget proposal, proposes an increase of about 1.6%. Local receipts are up a little over 3%, and the local receipts include our excise taxes, ambulance receipts, and building permits. Ambulance receipts, if the board recalls, we were able to bring an additional ambulance online last year, and so those we have seen the projected revenues from being able to do that. And building permits continue to remain very strong, and that's a good sign towards new growth and new revenues. On the expenditure side, one of our major expenditures is health insurance. Plymouth County projected a 10% increase in health insurance this year due to really historic planning. The impact to us locally here in Hull is really only little over 5%. Debt, we've had debt come off, and we'll be bringing new debt on, but you'll see in the budget numbers that overall debt is down 8.5%. So we'll be bringing on the seawall debt and Fort Revere Water Tower. The Hull High School renovations is the debt that's coming off. Pension liability is funded again at 4%, and the good news is on the pension liability, we anticipate our pension to be fully funded in 2030. 2030.
That's the plan.
Yep. Departmental budgets are up a little over or a little under, 4.7%, and that's a reflection on just inflation, capturing contract negotiations and other increases. And then our assessments are down about 3.4%. This slide is included in your budget books, and it's really just a summary of everything that was just explained. Other governmental, under expenditures, well, let me just walk through it, I guess. Revenue summary, again, it's the tax levy, the net state aid, and our local receipts. So total receipts for FY '27 are anticipated to be $56,615,285. That's an increase of $1,875,006. On the expenditure side, we match that revenue, and that represents, of course, our departmental budgets, overlay, snow and ice, and intergovernmental are our assessments. The budget worksheet reflects, again, all our departmental budgets, and there are a few I just want to highlight that might stand out as you're reviewing the specific department budgets. So you'll see that general government support has increased by 77%. That is a reflection of the town taking on traffic light maintenance and street light maintenance. That is something that was previously included in the light plant budget. Those total about 80,000, or excuse me, 64,000, or a little over 64,000 total. And then, of course, this budget does not reflect, or is less $200,000 in pilot payment from the light plant. And that is something that, we had to work to cover as we move forward in FY '27. It also includes professional and technical increases, which is our Civic Plus, our website, and the C-Click Fix software, which runs through Civic Plus. And then postage is actually up $10,000. So that's something you'll see in a number of, in a variety of the department budgets. One that you might not consider, but people take a hit on the postage. And then the IT department, right now we are doing an assessment together with the schools of the IT department. We did have a retirement in the IT director position. And so what I've budgeted in for FY '27 is a non-shared cost. We shared the cost of the IT director with the schools in the past. I do think that the town in some form, and we'll know better once the assessment's completed, which we do anticipate in the next coming weeks, that there's a stronger need for a little more IT support for both the schools and the town, both on the hardware side as well as the software side, particularly as more and more things move to online. The town clerk budget has a substantial increase, so there's an additional election in this year, which usually results in an increased budget, and the town clerk will be looking to, for an adjustment in the town clerk salary. And then the Veterans Office is up 50%. Our VSO has requested an additional day of service. And I think that is something that I recommend to the town to accommodate so that he can serve the needs of the veterans. He's doing a lot more assisting with transportation for medical services and the like, which is not uncommon out of the VSO office. So that extra day would be beneficial. Funding and security, financial reserves, these are the accounts that we established and I previously went over. So on our injured and on duty and workers' comp fund, we have a balance of $144,481. We originally funded that with $200,000. The unemployment, so you could see where that anticipated cost had essentially a savings account, if you will, there to accommodate it in this current fiscal year. The same with the unemployment compensation fund, that has a balance of $47,000. We originally funded $100,000. The employment liability reserve was, last year we funded at $100,000. There's a balance of $125,837. And then the grant match, we funded initially at $250,000, and that we're reflecting a balance of $250,000, but I believe we're going to be using a portion of that grant match fund in the short term. And then we consistently fund the general stabilization fund, which has a healthy balance of $2.7 million. The goal is to maintain a minimum balance of 3 to 5% of the overall operating budget. Capital Stabilization Fund has a balance of about just under 1.3, and that's 2 to 3% of the annual general fund budget. So we're in a healthy financial position. Some operational and capital expense highlights for FY '27. We will be working on one collective bargaining agreement, that's the library union. Excuse me, staff increases that we're proposing in FY '27 is the plan to add an additional 2 firefighters that'll bring the department to a near, if not full complement for their shifts. And then increase departmental staff hours. I talked about the IT director position, the veterans position, and then we're also proposing adding an additional staff member to our Department of Public Works. On the capital side, the public safety and equipment, and I'm going to get into a little more detail in the next slide on capital. Library, AC units, town hall, the closing of town hall, particularly addressing the roof and making sure the building is buttoned up once we do move out, and addressing some heating, what will become heating voids down in the police department and the fire station. We are looking at expanding our general government software to include some finance modules. I think we're focusing right now on the capital planning portion. We have a meeting next week, unfortunately it was canceled or rescheduled due to the snow this week. And then we're going to continue to fund and make seawall repairs and maintenance items. We'd like to advance the public safety facility project. Once the site has been identified, we'll need to move into design and permitting on that project. And then, of course, the potential relocation of the senior center. On the capital improvement side, we have traditionally budgeted a capital budget of $765,000, and those are for things that don't meet our capital planning threshold. So that being a tangible item of, well, it doesn't necessarily need to be tangible, $50,000 or greater, but has a lifespan of at least 5 years. So these items either don't meet that threshold, or they're items that may meet that threshold in terms of dollars, but they're recurring costs. So for example, the police department fleet. We replace 2 vehicles annually. Townwide line painting is something that we do on an annual basis. And so that's included within the budget. So for FY '27, we've included townwide line painting again, townwide seawall program, Straits pond mitigation, voting machines and poll pads, town clerk records retention, online permitting system, beach management survey, the additional funds for the 250th, and then additional or supporting funds for the website redesign. There are some technology upgrades for the IT department that are required. I talked about the police vehicles. We've included those units for specifically the jail cells and the garage downstairs. So when this building moves out, those will need to be heated. We had originally talked about boiler replacement. Fortunately, we found an alternative, and we do not need to do that because that would have been a substantial, significant cost. There are weapons replacements for the police department. And then on fire, there are fire hydrants. I talked about sorry, I think this got a little out of order in the transfer to the slide, but we talked about the heat replacement. School, there's some technology upgrades. DPW will be making some minor replacement on equipment. Street signs, we're continuing our street sign replacement program. And then the library, you can ignore the boiler replacement, and they need some AC units. Again, that total is $765,000. On the other side, the Capital Planning Committee has been making great progress. What you see here are the capital articles projects that the town accountant and I are recommending to move forward. These are items that we would need to borrow for. And they meet that capital project threshold. And they include for the the DPW department, 1 backhoe, 2 trucks, garage. DPW would like to add garage and new storage facility at the cemetery that would include restrooms, so that people visiting the cemetery had a place where a nicer structure there. One for DPW workers, and it would be staffed, and then just for the public to utilize restroom facilities. We'll be ordering a new rescue for the fire department. The landfill capping, that is a large project, but it's paced out, or it's phased out, over the next couple of years. For the upcoming fiscal year, we're looking to fund $600,000 to continue the permitting and process to get to the ultimate capping of the landfill. The senior center relocation, public safety facility design and permitting, which I discussed. The DPW light plant joint facility is on here, but that should not be on for FY '27. Manomet and Samoset, the interim measure, so including some pavement management in FY '27 for a variety of different roads. We're also pricing out repaving of Central Avenue. And like I noted, the interim paving for Manomet and Samoset. Two-way road conversion also is not for FY '27. Town hall closure we discussed. And then we also talked a little bit about continuing software improvements for the town. For next steps, before I get to the next steps, well, actually, I'll just talk about them. It's obviously, as I noted, the select board will sign the warrant this month, and then we move the budget forward to town meeting for a vote. What I do want to highlight is the fact that we, as a town, are in a very healthy financial status. I think the chairman brought up in the past that a majority of communities, neighboring communities, are facing overrides due to financial challenges, hiring freezes. We are not. We're confidently adding staff. We're supporting reasonable cost of living increases for our non-union staff. We have 5 successful contracts negotiated in the past year. We're moving forward on capital work. We're moving forward on road paving. The town is in a good spot, both financially and on the capital side of projects. You heard this evening about the potential relocation of the senior center, so that's another place where we don't need to find a new location, which we've learned quickly that and most of us likely knew anyway, we just don't have a lot of land, if any extra land in town, certainly not extra municipal buildings. So there are acquisition costs to be saved there, which might free up that building for other uses, maybe affordable housing. Yet to be explored and discussed, but I just really want to emphasize the good work of our finance department. I want to also thank the town departments. They all did great work in putting their budgets together, and when we were trying to close a financial gap, the question was, tell me what I need to do so we can get there, or the statement was. And everyone just really chips in, and you talked about the storm this week, Erwin, but their commitment to this town is genuine and consistent, and I want to take the opportunity to acknowledge that. And with that, I'll take questions.
On that, I just want to build on what you said. I think in this time, seeing what's going on in other towns around us on the South Shore, to present not only a balanced budget, but to also be able to increase staff in some very important areas, like 2 full-time firefighters, EMT and paramedic, adding an additional worker at DPW. We just saw what DPW was able to do with the limited staff that they have, to add another DPW worker, to increase the veterans' time and increase IT and other initiatives that you've talked about here. I think on behalf of the board and the residents, I'd like to really thank you and commend you for submitting a balanced budget. We're not looking at an override, we're not looking at layoffs. In fact, we're looking at increasing staff in critical areas. So, thank you. I think it's important to recognize that, and that we have the full services and be able to increase services. So again, you, the town accountant, and the full staff are to be commended on the work that you've done.
Thank you.
So thank you. Any comments, questions from the board?
I would just say thank you as well. I echo what Erwin had said. It's a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can confirm neighboring town, absolutely, they're having issues, and they are, I believe, asking staff to cut budgets 5% maybe, so that's a real thing in quite a few communities, so it's really good to hear that revenues are strong enough and the money and everything's being managed well, and we're in a good position, because that is fantastic news. The only question I have is that you mentioned the DPW dual facility is not supposed to be on there?
No, we're not recommending advancing that right now for FY '27. It's not ready to be advanced.
Okay, is that, so my question really is just curious on the decision-making. Is that the capital improvement committee making those decisions, or?
Which decisions?
Okay.
What you see here on the right-hand side, and when I transferred an Excel sheet over to an image, I think it added in some of the, I'll update this slide for everyone in the public, some of the hidden, this came out of an overall
No, I understand.
capital list, that the capital,
So has the thought process changed on that project, or is it
Nope.
just, oh, okay.
no, it's currently funded and it's going through the third phase that it's in. And so we're not ready in FY '27 to advance it any further, but it is, I do anticipate it to be on that 5-year plan. But what you see on the right-hand side there is just the recommendations, as we're directed to do both by charter and our positions, is to make a recommendation of capital projects for the upcoming fiscal year. So these are just the projects that would be addressed in FY '27 that would need or require borrowing.
Okay, and so, as another example, the senior center relocation, that's been talked about for a couple of years, and is the feeling of the staff there that they would like to move? It seems like a good idea to me, but I don't
Yeah,
spend a lot of time there, you know?
we did talk to the director and a few council members, but we were waiting for the select board presentation this evening, and then we'll attend a COA meeting and have further discussions with the council and
Okay.
propose, the recommendation for the relocation. And then we'll have to scope out that project and put a budget together and,
So I had heard that the dual facility did come up in a recent CIC meeting, and that it was basically, I guess, the majority on that committee felt as though that project should move forward. And I know we've talked about it before, but there are obviously concerns. I've heard a lot of concerns from people in the public that it's maybe not the best location for emergency response. 2 teams now
I'm
being located
sorry, are you
there.
talking about public safety or the
No, I'm
light
sorry,
plant?
the dual-use facility. At
The
the
DPW light plant?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think you just combined the two, so could you just repeat that one more time?
That DPW combined with the light plant facility,
Yep.
it sounds like it's gonna keep progressing forward, and that's my question is, it doesn't seem like a good location for it. And I'm just wondering where that decision's come from. Is it the majority of the capital improvement committee making that decision, that it should move forward?
Well, it's grant funded right now, which is why it's moving forward.
Right, in design.
We haven't gotten to the discussion on that particular item right now. So where we're at with the plan is the recommendation for FY '27, and then we're gonna be building out the next 4 years of the capital plan.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
No, good.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Mike, thank you as well. Okay, next item on the agenda are the citizens' petitions review. Just want to put this into context. We We don't vote on this. This is really just a public announcement of these. The date for citizen petitions has passed. This automatically goes to the advisory board for recommendation. If there is any board member that would like to discuss any of these for whether or not the board supports it or not, we'll have an opportunity to do that on future agendas after we see how the the advisory board discusses and votes on it. So I'm just going to read them. There are 10 citizens petitions. I'm just going to read them, but there's really no action for us at this time. As I said, they automatically go forward. They will automatically be on the warrant with a recommendation from the advisory board. I'm just going to go through it quickly. There are 10 of them. One is replace the stairs to the beach on Western Avenue, submitted by Paul Goes. Number 2, provide the recordings of all public meetings through Hull Cable and/or official town websites, submitted by Michael Marlowe. Repeal of May 2018 annual town meeting, Article 11, submitted by Susan Vermillion. Increase access to municipal meetings via remote access, submitted by Susan Vermillion. Town meeting approval required for permanent traffic direction changes on Nantasket Beach Overlay District, submitted by Linda Hatu. Appropriate a small annual budget for certain boards, committees, and commissions, submitted by Lisa French. Amend bylaw Chapter 111-4 Capital Improvement Planning Board Powers and Duties, submitted by Lisa French. James Avenue acquisition by town, submitted by Kathleen Wolf. Town provides access to qualified municipal attorney for citizens petitions, submitted by Jacob Valancourt. And number 10, petition to petition the general court for special legislation to amend the town charter to remove the town manager from the operation of the municipal light plant. Those are all 10 of the citizens petitions. As I said, the deadline for submitting them has passed, so these 10 will go forward and be on the town warrant. Seeing no questions on that, I'll move on to approval.
I think Jen.
Yeah, just quickly, so we're working on the overall warrant right now, and once that draft is ready, in the next, either starting at the next meeting or when the board closes the warrant, we'll just keep it as a consistent item, agenda item up to town meeting, and we'll start reviewing, our standard articles. I think there may be a few zoning articles coming forward at this town meeting.
And then we close the warrant, March 25th?
March 25th.
So we have a month before we close the warrant. Okay, thank you. Approvals. Armando Aguilar, manager of Hull Knights of Columbus, 440 Nantasket Ave, requesting a one-day liquor license on Saturday, March 14th, from 6:30 PM to 11 PM for a St. Patrick's Day dinner. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Moved by Gray, seconded by McCarthy. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Okay, we will go into executive session to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, and that the chair declare that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the body, to comply with or act under the authority of the attorney-client privilege, and to consult with legal counsel and obtain legal advice pursuant to the attorney-client privilege, re Steamboat Wharf Marina, and also to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel, and to conduct a strategy session in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, re the town manager contract, and we will reconvene in open session after that. Yes, Kim?
Hi, I didn't hear my name when you read out my article, but we would like to possibly, in response to criticism of a year ago, give proper public education on the subject. And we're wondering if there's a public space that we could have for public education. Has that happened in Hull? I'm not.
Yes, it has, and you can schedule space at the high school. The presentation room is usually where these things are done, and you can do that through the school.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
There's a woman, Amy Hyde is the woman, I believe, they need to contact.
Yes, Mr. Irwin.
David Irwin, 3 Townway. Since the storm's got a name, will there be reimbursement from state and federal on our cleanup?
Well, we did, the board did declare a snow emergency, so we do have that in place if there are costs that we need to recoup from the storm, yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
This is Range 47 Rock Lake. After the executive session, are you meeting again?
We
Tonight?
have to reconvene? Yes.
You reconvene just on
We'll
one of the
reconvene.
items.
And
Yeah.
about what time do you think, and what issues are you going to talk about after you reconvene?
We don't have anything on the agenda after we reconvene, other than to report on any decision that's public from the executive session.
From the session, but nothing else
No,
besides that?
that's the end of the agenda, right. Yes?
Jason Allenberg, 1224 Avalon Drive. Will there be updates at the end when you reconvene in the public session?
Yes. If folks have updates, we will, yeah.
Thanks.
Did you say about what time, do you think?
No idea, as long as it takes. Sorry.
So, is that your motion?
Yes, is there a second?
I'll second it.
We need a roll call vote. All in favor?
Hi, Gray.
I'm Carvey.
Aye, Taverna?
Aye, Nessoff. We are now in executive session. At 9:40? No. I think the only thing left on the agenda at this point is updates, and we'll start with the town manager.
I'm just looking, I don't have that many updates from last week's meeting. The big news this week was the storm, and you addressed that earlier, Erwin. I do also want to thank the departments for the work that they did. We had staff that came in to make sure payroll was taken care of. So it happened all over, I know people immediately think about police, fire, the light plant, and rightfully so, DPW, but there are also a lot of behind-the-scenes things that are happening by staff in town. I also want to acknowledge DCR. Kevin Conway, their operations staff, was tremendously helpful. If we said we needed extra anything, he was there. and that is much appreciated, as well as the MBTA. I was on the phone with them as late as 10:30 on Monday night, trying to, determine if ferries can open. That Tuesday was the commuter lot ready, so I appreciate very much their coordination with the town. And police and fire, I think, had answered over 100 calls just in the storm alone and in those conditions, so it was a job well done. I did put out a post, but I really, as corny as it sounds, drove through the next morning just to do an assessment, and I just kept thinking how proud I was. Streets were clear, side roads were cleared, less than 24 hours after the completion of the storm. So we did post on Facebook regularly. I added those posts to the town website. I know some people had commented previously that they're not on Facebook, and so they don't get all our updates. So that was just another area. I did an interview for NBC. So we did use multiple media resources to help get the word out.
Thank you.
I think, Stacy, is there anything you?
It's been
Yeah.
all storm since the last meeting.
Yep, storm, budget wrap-up.
I'm all set.
I just want to again, just reiterate what Jen said. It was clearly an all-hands-on-deck effort, and it really paid off. We did a lot better than some of the towns around us. I have just two quick announcements. One is the Hull High School Performing Arts Group is doing a play on February 27th, which is Friday night, 7 p.m., called Dark Road. It's free to all residents. It'll be performed at the high school. And it's part of a competition with the Massachusetts Educational Theater Guild's 2026 Festival, which will be next weekend, and they'll be doing it on Saturday at the 27th, no, Saturday at, I think it's Norwell High School. So folks can turn out on Friday night to support them. It would be great for them to perform in front of a full house. I'm not sure what the play is about, but it's more important is that it's our students that are performing it. Also, Craig Wolf put out a call for people to help dig out any fire hydrants that haven't been dug out yet. Folks can reach him at 89edge@comcast.net. And I want to end by, again, congratulating town manager and our town accountant and his staff for presenting a balanced budget in a very difficult budget time. So, thank you.
I'll echo that, but one thing to go a little further regarding cleanup and what have you. It was a nice gesture by the town of Cohasset to allow Hull residents to use their senior center, which is beautiful, by the way. So I don't want to get into it tonight, but I'd like to know exactly our plan for next year. Hopefully you don't get any more this year. But I'm saying next year, like, I just don't understand it myself, so I have to learn, because I've never been to a warming center. Is it 8 o'clock to 8 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night? Is it 6 o'clock at night? Is it overnight? How's it staffed? So I don't want to get into it tonight, but again, maybe just if we could, I don't know if it's a future agenda item or it's a clarification from you, Jen, to say, hey, just following up on the question regarding this is what our plan is, or this is what we have on the books, and that way whether we tweak it or whether we keep it the way it is. Again, I've never been to a warming station, so I don't know how they work or what have you. But I know it's got to cost something.
Yeah,
So
we can certainly do that, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I inadvertently left Cohasset out. They called us that morning, and it was, it was very nice of them to open up the center. When they called, we did discuss whether or not to open up Hull, but at that point in time, we were, I think, down to about 30 households that didn't have power, and Hull Light was working on restoring that power, so.
I just think it's good for the town of Hull in general to, I don't want to use the word regionalize, but to work hand in hand with Cohasset, on it and on many things. I mean, they've had discussions about, I won't even get into that, but, just, we're starting to, think about it, Greg. 20 years ago, do you think that would have happened? No. Okay, so maybe we can, moving forward with, I think more of the town of Cohasset is a smaller town. Hingham's their own, animal, for a better word.
Mini city.
Mini city, thank you. So, yeah, maybe there's other ways that we can work together. So, to see that happen, maybe we send a formal thank you to the town manager or to the select board chair, saying, thank you for the gesture, we much appreciated it. Hopefully you can help us along in the future.
Just want to add with Cohasset, towns working together, Cohasset has opened up their transfer station
Yeah.
to non-residents. As of today, only 44 people have
44,
taken
yeah.
advantage of it. I think it was 150 that they opened it up for. So there's still significant
Yeah. So from a week
opportunity
ago,
if
went from
people,
29 to 44.
yeah,
Yep.
so if people want to take advantage of that. Jack?
Excellent. Quickly, I think the Hull girls basketball team has a playoff game tonight. I was hoping to go to that, but this meeting interfered with it. I couldn't make it. It started at 6, so hopefully they're doing well in that game. Yeah?
Oh,
You can check what, yeah, that's great.
Was talking about the playoffs too, right?
I believe so, yeah.
I don't know where they're at,
But I think Brian brought up one point. I gave the collective town response on this storm was an A+, in my opinion, especially based on the surprise of that first big storm, and the difficulties we had. This was an A+. The planning beforehand, everything was just great. I know there were some people with down poles that couldn't be addressed for a small time period, but I think I saw numbers of 20 to 30 people maybe that were affected more longer term, right? And their town was in communication with them, which was great. There was just 2 questions from the storm, and I think Brian brought up the first one is, people wanted to know why Hull didn't open a warming center. I think you addressed that, right? And the second one was whether or not there was a change in I think people really appreciate Mr. Russo and his constant updates, and some people are saying that there may have been a change in communication. Was that the case or no? Or was he?
I did a number of posts. We tagged emergency management. The chief is the director of emergency management. He had put on some posts. We were all in constant communication throughout the day.
All right, so it's a collective
So,
effort. That was my only question, yeah.
Yep.
But again, A+ effort for sure, and it was good to see. I think things cleaned up a lot better this storm, no question. I think I had a couple other things, but they're not coming to mind right now, so I think we can just go home.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at